So about a week ago, we got a brand new trailer to Glitch's show. And while many people are excited for this brand new show titled Game Overs, been quite a bit of trauma going on with Glitch Productions. Yeah, seriously, people have even started to hate on Glitch Productions for this one trailer. And there's been this new term going around named Indie Swap, which, personally, I don't understand any of this. How can indie animation be a flop? Like, you all are telling me you like 6'7", but not indie animation? Okay, I'll stop. But yeah, this one show has involved a lot of trauma and glitch. Simply for a couple of reasons, and that is why in today's video I want to go over why we should not be concerned about Glitch Productions. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about why I personally think Glitch Productions has all of this under control, and why I think Glitch is moving into the right direction. And because there's many people talking about the fact that Glitch has too many shows, and they're worried that their other shows are just gonna be like, not getting any more episodes and stuff, like Knights of Guinevere, because the show hasn't been greenlit yet. So in today's video, I'm gonna be going over all of that and why I think we should be concerned about none of it, and we're basically just telling ourselves, stuff that's never going to happen. So let's start off with the obvious. Does Glitch have too many shows? Now, currently, Glitch Productions has 5 shows: The Amazing Digital Circus, The Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, Lackadaisy, and now Game Overs. Now, yes, this is a lot of shows for one indie studio. However, let's all keep this in mind. The Amazing Digital Circus will be soon coming to an end. The Amazing Digital Circus has only 2 episodes left, and we know episode 8 will be coming out in March 20th. Not that far away now. We're in February, and we're like a month and 19 days away from the episode being released. Meaning that we're not too far from Digital Circus episode 8. And episode 9, knowing Gooseworks, she's probably been working on episode 9, the animation. So while I think episode 9 could take a few months to come out, I don't think it will be coming out any later than August, honestly. I feel like it'll come out August the latest, probably. And sure, maybe it could take a little longer than that, knowing that the finale's probably gonna be 57 minutes or something crazy like that, but I don't think it will be any later than August, honestly. Maybe it could release in September, but honestly, I think it's safer to bet that it's going to be releasing sometime in the summer of 2026, this year. So we're not really that far away from Digital Circus ending. Basically, meaning that with Digital Circus ending, we really only have 4 shows. And really, technically, we actually only have 3 now, because Lackadaisy isn't really a Glitch show. If you don't know, in the Glitch Direct, they have this thing called Glitch Percent, where basically they help, they take they basically do it's basically where if a show's under Glitch Percent, Glitch doesn't technically own the show. They just kind of help, help fund the show, market it, and other stuff like that. And that's what they're basically doing to Lackadaisy. However, this doesn't mean that they're owned by Glitch Productions. It's an entirely different studio, and Lackadaisy wasn't even released on Glitch's channel. It was released on a channel named Lackadaisy. Now, I am not familiar with Lackadaisy in the slightest. All I know is that I heard the pilot's very good and popular, and so I've never watched the pilot. I don't know anything about Lackadaisy, so please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about anything. So apparently, the creator of Lackadaisy couldn't fund the show, and the show was saved last minute by Glitch, meaning that now the show is going to continue to get more and more episodes, which is absolutely great. I definitely got to watch the pilot soon, but But this doesn't mean Glitch owns the show, and doesn't mean it's going to be getting released on their YouTube channel. Glitch Presents is just when Glitch helps fund the show, and basically helps market the show, and basically anything, like, they're working to help them make the show, but it's not like a Glitch original like Digital Circus or Gaslight District or Knights of Guinevere or Game of First. Glitch Originals is when it's their own show and stuff like that. But it's a show owned by Glitch. But Glitch Presents is when they're just helping funding the show and stuff and marketing it and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean Glitch owns Wackadaisy. Meaning that basically we have only 3 shows. Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, and Game Overs, and which is basically the same amount we had, because back in January 2025, we got the reveal of Knights of Guinevere, and we already know Gaslight District was coming as well, and those 2 were announced. So Gaslight District was announced when Digital Circus only had 3 episodes, and Knights of Guinevere was announced when Digital Circus only had 4 episodes, meaning that basically, Digital Circus wasn't even halfway through yet. We still had like 5 episodes. We had like 5 episodes left to go. So we've already had 3 shows being worked on at the same time. And now, since Digital Circus is coming to an end, that means that we basically have 3 shows again, like we did back in 2025. And sure, yes, Digital Circus is still going, but it's not going to be going for that long, per se. So, yeah. And this brings me to my next topic. Now, many people are concerned that Knights of Guinevere is basically canceled, and it's never going to get greenlit because we haven't gotten any news about Knights of Guinevere. Now, personally, I absolutely do believe the show will get greenlit. I believe they just had to announce a couple of things first. Obviously, they had to do the Glitch Direct, and they did the Black Friday sale, and they had to, then they released Digital Circus Episode 7, and then they had to announce Game Over first. But however, sure, while the pilot might be 5 months years old, that doesn't mean that the show is just automatically canceled. Digital Circus didn't get greenlit until the pilot was 4 months years old, and Gaslight District didn't get greenlit until 3 months. And sure, while we're waiting longer for Gaslight District to be greenlit compared to Digital Circus and Gaslight District, at the same time, we all have to remember Knights of Guinevere and also Game Over is being they're both being made by a different studio, which is the 2D animation team, while Gaslight District and Digital Circus are being owned by 3D animators and by a 3D animation team. So because it's a different studio, they probably play things out a little differently. And Knights of Guinevere is their first 2D show. Other shows they've made before, like Murder Drones and stuff, those were all by the 3D animation team. Oh, and Meta Runner and Sunset Paradise, I think they were just made by the people of SMG4. I could be wrong now. And basically, and since they're both owned by a different studio, they might have a different schedule compared to the 3D animation team that announced their shows get greenlit sooner. But this also doesn't mean that Knights of Guinevere is canceled only because we haven't heard any news about it in 5 months. I will bet that this month in February, we will get some news of Knights of Guinevere being greenlit. And if we don't, well, it's probably just because they're currently still working on it. I do believe at some point this year, we will get an official announcement that the show is being greenlit. Most likely either in February or April, because we don't even know what's coming in February or April. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get an announcement in March either, because Digital Circus Episode 8 is coming out, and Game of First isn't even coming out until May. So I do believe that this month we will get a video about Knights of Guinevere being greenlit, and if we don't, then I still wouldn't worry. If the pilot's like a month and a half years old, then maybe that's where we can start being concerned, or even a year. If like the pilot turns 1 year old and we still haven't heard any news, then that's where I would start getting concerned. But the pilot is only 5 months old. It's still pretty new. So I wouldn't be concerned about Knights of Guinevere. I think it will get greenlit, and I do think this month we'll get at least a tiny bit of news about the pilot being greenlit for a full show. And that's why I personally wouldn't worry. And, Gaslight District got greenlit at 16 million views, and the Knights of Guinevere pilot, I believe, has around 17 million. So, and sure, while 2D animation is pretty expensive, I don't think Glitch would ever let down Dana Terrace, and I think they will get the show greenlit eventually. Another thing people have been wondering is Glitch still indie? And I get it that they're a massive studio, but they are still indie. Glitch will always probably be an indie studio forever. And sure, they made massive crossovers with big companies, like with Digital Circus being on Netflix, and them having a long time crossover with Amazon. But like Glitch said, they still have the full rights to their shows, and they're gonna be sticking being indie basically forever. So I don't think Glitch is ever gonna stop being indie. I think they will always be an indie animation studio. However, this doesn't mean that they're a small channel anymore. Glitch has grown massive over the past years, especially since Digital Circus came out. Glitch has gotten so big that it's actually kind of crazy how big Glitch has gotten, and they are no familiar to massive crossovers with different companies and even Comic Cons. And at this point, we know that Glitch ain't just two people working on animation anymore. They're a massive company now, and sure, while they don't probably not have as much money as like Universal or Disney, that doesn't mean that they're massive, because they are. But however, they are still indie animation studio, and with the end of SMG4, because SMG4 just ended in December 27th, that means that they're no longer focusing on that show to work on, meaning that I do believe that they will, once Digital Circus ends, I believe everything will come together. They also did say Gaslight District is, well, that's the other thing. I've been hearing people being concerned about Gaslight District, but literally, Gaslight District has already been greenlit for a full season. The second episode just ain't gonna be coming out after Digital Circus ends, meaning that we won't get the second episode for a while, probably. I think we'll get it maybe in late 2026, around maybe September or October, maybe around that time zone. So yes, it is going to take a while to come out, but that doesn't mean it's canceled. They clearly told us that we ain't getting any more episodes of Gaslight District until Digital Circus has ended. So we shouldn't be concerned about Gaslight District either. The second episode's just going to be taking a while to come out. We literally had to wait a year for the second episode of Murder Throne. So waiting a year for a pilot is nothing new. And I don't think Knights of Guinevere is going to get an episode until the pilot turns 1 year old either, but that is just because of, animation takes a really long time. Animation takes an incredibly long time, and animation is a thing that you cannot rush. Animation's gonna take it's gonna take a very long time. 2D animation, I believe, does take longer, and it's more expensive than 3D animation. And yeah, and and that's why we have to wait a while. Just because we only had to wait 7 months for Digital Circus Episode 2 to release, that was an exception because the show growed up so quickly. But for the other shows, we're probably gonna have to wait at least a year for a second episode after the pilot comes out. No, I do think we'll have to wait a year for Game O first episode 2. Maybe not, though. Maybe we'll get it in February, but I'm looking way too far into the future. But regardless, I think I believe after Digital Circus ends, I feel like they'll get everything back to normal. they're just kind of working on a bunch of different things, and I think they'll continue to grow big. I do think that they'll continue to announce new shows, and and I do believe they're gonna get bigger and bigger. Now, and yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about this. I think Glitch knows what they're doing, and they know what they're planning, which is why I think, I just think they will get everything back to normal. And we gotta remember, there's 3 separate teams at Glitch Productions. The 3D animation team, the 2D animation team, and Glitch Presents. Oh, so, that now since they have multiple studios, they can get episodes and stuff out more consistently or at better timing. And I don't think anything's gonna be cluttered together. Just like a lot of people are thinking. I think they're gonna handle the situation completely fine, and I think Glitch basically knows what they're doing. Glitch is an incredible studio, and they are incredibly smart about their marketing and everything. And I don't think Glitch would ever betray us. And sure, while we may not like we might not be too much of a fan of every show they release, that's perfectly fine. Every show appeals to a different audience. Just because you like The Amazing Digital Circus doesn't mean you need to like Gameovers. They both appeal to, well, I mean, I guess both shows have some common together because they're both themed around video games, but well, I guess you could say, just because you like another show from Glitch doesn't mean you have to like another one. It's great if you like all shows, but you don't have to like every show they release. But that doesn't mean you need to call, indie animation slop. Indie animation, it takes a lot of hard work and creativity to even make a pilot happen. And that's why we have to support the shows as much as possible. So that way they can continue to get more and more episodes and more love. That's just how projects go and stuff in the indie animation community. Sure, they might not be as big as Disney or something, but I mean, Dana Terrace, she literally went from making the Owl House and on the Disney Channel and just moved to Glitch Productions. Do you think that's an absurd move for a person who worked at Disney out of all companies to move to Glitch? Yeah, that just tells us right there that working with Glitch is much better than working with a studio like Disney. Sure, Disney might pay more than Glitch, but Glitch allows you to express your freedom and creativity into these shows. Just so long they don't, past the YouTube community guidelines, which, I mean, it makes sense. We don't want YouTube taking down your animation when you worked so hard on it, but regardless, I actually think Glitch Productions is getting even better than it already was. I think that, how I say this? I personally think they're getting better because they're gonna continue to grow bigger as a studio, and I do believe personally that Glitch is gonna do everything just right. The employees won't be overworked. The shows won't be cluttered together. I think everything's gonna turn out fine, especially once Digital Circus ends, because Digital Circus is where it's gonna end in maybe 7 months. So we're not too far away from Digital Circus ending here, which is quite sad because that's my favorite show. But I am definitely excited for more Gaslight Digital content. That's the part I'm most excited about outside Digital Circus episode 89. I'm personally excited for Gaslight District the most out of any shows. But Knights of Guinevere, while I'm not the biggest fan of it, honestly, I still think it's a pretty cool show. And I do think the show has massive potential. And I do know I definitely think it will be greenlit. And Gameovers definitely looks like an interesting show. And as for someone who's really into video gaming, I can't wait to see how Gameovers turns out. But that's just what I wanted to talk about. I don't think we should be a little concerned about Glitch Productions or hating on it. Like, I don't even see a reason to hate on Glitch Productions. Just because they might have more shows than usual doesn't mean they're, gonna get everything under control. I mean, we just have to remember, Gaslight District, it's already been greenlit. Knights of Glenfair is definitely being greenlit too. It's probably just gonna take a little while, because, like, it's a different studio. Digital Circus is ending, and I believe once Gaslight District episodes start coming out, I believe Gaslight District is, I feel like Gaslight District is probably going to be their biggest focus, because I feel like all the episodes will come out kind of quick. Like, maybe we have to wait long for some of them, but, like, a little while for some of them, but I believe the show will end, like, 2029 or something. But, I feel like that will be their main focus for a while, and then they'll also be working on Knights of Glenfair, episode 2, which I believe will come out probably later this year as well, and I do believe Game of Thrones will get greenlit too, so, but that's just what I wanted to say in this video. Let me know what you guys think about the glitch situation in the comments below. And I just wouldn't be concerned about them, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I just wanted to make this video to get out my true thoughts, and I'm honestly excited for what Glitch Productions has to offer in the future. But anyways, I'm gonna get going. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Oh yeah, and since Digital Circus is ending, well, anyways, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.